Hi, and welcome to Theme Park Real Talk, the podcast that discusses theme park news but keeps it real.
I'm Andy, your co host, and I am a theme park enthusiast since I was a little kid living in Houston, Texas. I'd visit Astroworld every week during the summers with all my friends over and over again. I've been living in the Orlando area now since 2013, and I have lost track by now of how many times I visited all the theme parks here. And like most people in Central Florida, where nearly half of all the jobs here are related to tourism in the parks, I have a lot of friends who work for Disney, Universal, and SeaWorld. And I also happen to be a very nosy person, so I've been keeping my ear to the ground about all the developments of all the parks. And to top it off, I have a kid who's something of a theme park history buff, so I've absorbed a lot of that by osmosis.
Hi, I'm Amy. I'm your co host, and I have been going to theme parks ever since I was a kid. I grew up in Southern California, so my parks were primarily Disneyland and Universal Studios in Hollywood. That's where I first developed my love for film, watching the old special effects show at Universal starring Back to the Future. Those were my two primary parks. I moved up to Sacramento, but even then, I kept coming down to Los Angeles to keep going to theme parks. I have no idea how many times I've been to either, but I visited Disney at 11 months old until now. So a lot of time since then. I made another recent move, so now I'm even further away from Disneyland. But you know what? I'm always going to keep coming back because I just can't get enough. I've been on the Disney cruise and I've been to Walt Disney World a few times, so I'm fairly familiar with Florida, but obviously not as familiar as Andy. But I'm here to keep track of all the news, both in Florida and my home base here at Disneyland and Disney's California Adventure here on the West Coast.
Yeah, Amy and I met online in 2014, and during all our talks, we discovered very quickly that we have this shared enthusiasm for the parks. And with her on the West Coast and me on the East Coast, we've been chit chatting back and forth about theme park comings and goings for a few years now. And that, friends, is what brings us here today.
So let's kick things off with a very sad note. Is Disney legend Tommy Kirk passed away recently.
Oh,
I love Tommy Kirk. Babes in Toyland was like my favorite movie when I was a kid. So he played Grumio, who was the professor's assistant, and he was quite the hot mess. But other people know him from Old Yeller, Swiss Family Robinson. What do you remember him from?
yeah, Old Yeller and Swiss Family Robinson. Especially Swiss Family Robinson, just because I was really familiar with the Swiss Family Robinson treehouse that they had in the theme park for so long. That, for whatever reason, that was one of my favorite places to go when I was a kid going to Disney World. So
Me
I just became very,
too.
yeah, it was just, I wanted to live there. So for whatever reason, I went through a Swiss Family Robinson phase as a child. So that's probably what I knew him the best from.
I think it was like when they turn things into other things, like we're gonna have the water pulley, or like we're gonna have a Murphy bed that pops out. I haven't seen the movie in a long time, but like when we're gonna have a bed that like comes down from the side, like when they were so innovative for being inside of a treehouse. And I think that's cool for like little kids, like using their imaginations to kind of like MacGyver everything into into that treehouse. And also like Tommy Kirk had a super tumultuous relationship with Disney when he was
He sure did.
when he was gaining his popularity and he was working for Disney. They found out that he was gay, and then they
They
kind
ruined his
of
life. They kind of did.
they did. Disney did that. I feel like they kind of they made an attempt to make it up to him and try to keep him more involved in Disney going ons, but it's super sad that Tommy is no longer with us because you know what? He was a
So,
babe.
he was. Except he almost made it to his 80th birthday. Yeah, I have a lot of friends, in the LGBTQ community who did kind of side eye the all the posts about how sad from the official Disney accounts about
Right.
it. But you're right. They did try to bring him more into the fold and make it up to him. So hopefully he did at least have in his later years the comfort that people really did think of him as an early icon, and he had a really large and growing fan base that had a lot of it had younger people had rediscovered his work, and he had a I know he had I think he was on the convention circuit at some point too.
I think
So
so.
yeah, so he definitely had a sort of a renaissance, and so I hope that he knew that how appreciated and how well loved he was by so many generations before he passed.
Well, we'll always love him in this Disney family. So shout out to, you know, shots for Tommy. Water shots for Tommy Kirk. I'm gonna pour one out for Tommy Kirk later, not on my carpet. But there's a lot we have to talk about this week because Magic Kingdom started their 50th anniversary goings on. Like, what would you call it? Celebrations, I guess.
Shenanigans. I saw, you know, those photos of people waiting to get in October 1st. It was like 6 in the morning. I mean, the sun hadn't even come up yet, and it was just packed already outside the gates. Now, I am a person, as you know, from the last episode and the anecdote that I said about how I put off going to Rise of the Resistance, and here we are a year and a half later. I still haven't managed to go because I had so if you didn't hear the last episode, what happened was that Rise of the Resistance debuted in January of 2020, and it was totally geared toward morning people. Like, you had to be up. And I live an hour outside the parks. I live in an Orlando suburb, which actually isn't saying a whole lot in Orlando. If you've ever tried to drive in Orlando, there's a whole joke about you drive an hour in Orlando, you're an hour away from Orlando because it's all Orlando. But I live about an hour away outside, 45 minutes depending on traffic. So for me to get there at 5 in the morning to line up, or 3 or 4 people were spending the night to ride Rise of the Resistance, it would have been like I basically wouldn't have been able to sleep the night before. So I was like, January 2020, I was like, I'll just wait until the crowds die down and I'll write it later. You know, it just wasn't really I mean, you know, you have to have the opportunity cost of, you know, losing sleep. And for me, I was just thinking I had all the time in the world. And then of course, all the theme parks shut down for months. And so now we are here and I still have yet to go. So I'm hoping something similar doesn't happen because I'm kind of doing the same thing now with the 50th anniversary. I'm going on Friday to the Magic Kingdom.
Yay.
This coming Friday, so like a week after, to see to kind of scope things, like the situation out. You know, it hasn't been sold out yet. There are still reservations available. As we know now, Disney is doing, the theme parks are doing reservation system, so you have to reserve, and once they hit whatever they're calling, they don't tell you the official numbers, but whatever the capacity number is for that day, once they hit it, you can't make any more reservations. And I was able to make one yesterday, so obviously a week out, you know, they're not hitting what they consider capacity.
Yeah, the only time I saw it hit capacity was the first day that it opened. So,
but here's the thing, this is my thinking. These celebrations are going to be in place, as far as we know, unchanged for at least a year. At least, like, they're not doing anything different on day 1 that they're doing on day 365. As far as we know, it's going to be the same, unless you want to have not you know, like not have FOMO or something. I don't really know. Like why brave the?
I mean, that's it, right? The thing about Disney and the thing about people who go to Disney is you have to be the first. So like, regardless of what it is, you have to be there first day. And it's like, especially in Instagram, it's like, look at all the things that we got on the first day. It's like they got a poster as they were leaving the park. They got first dibs on all the merchandise. Like, they were there. And then not only that, but Disney also kind of perpetuates it because on their guidebooks for Magic Kingdom, it said October 1st, like 2021. Like, you're not going to see that on October 2nd. So they're like, well, we got the first guidebook, and people are doing like tons of giveaways for all like the first stuff. It's all about being first when it comes to Disney, because people want to see what the things are. People want to see what it is, I guess. But like, I was just gonna say,
I get it, but the crowds, I mean, for me, the trade-off was I'm banking on the idea that it's still going to be there in a week, and hopefully by then all the resellers have gotten what they needed, all of the people who wanted to be there first are happy, and it'll be back to normal. I'm going during the week because the weekends I'm sure are going to be packed regardless. Actually, the tier that I have for the annual pass has both Saturday and Sunday blocked out for the rest of October. So they are anticipating a huge demand for that. So I can't go on the weekends anyway, but it happens to be my day off and my family's day off. It's Friday, so we're totally fine with going on Friday, but so we'll see. I'll have to report back next week.
Yes, please report back. From what I've seen on the gram, it seems like all the action is happening at Magic Kingdom for the most part, not even just on opening day, but according to people who go into the other parks, it's been okay with rides and ride times and everything. So I think that the focus has been on Magic Kingdom. As far as I know, the merch has also just stayed at Magic Kingdom.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard anything about it.
There is merch at all parks, and
Oh,
there
that's
is
right. There was something at
Disney
Epcot.
Springs too. Yes,
At
yes,
the
and
new
they have it
creation store.
at Animal Kingdom as well. And I haven't seen much out of Hollywood Studios, but from what I read, like I get their little newsletter, and they said that there was different merch at all the different parks. But of course, they are focusing on the park that's actually celebrating. But they have all the parks as well as other Disney properties, like even I think Disney Boardwalk Resort. Disney Boardwalk Resort is a kind of little mini strip mall where they have a bunch of little boutiques so you can go for a walk and what have you. So I've heard there's unique. Their idea. This is all to increase attendance. This is all to get people butts in the seats, as they say. They want people to go, and so that's what they're trying to do. They're just trying to get. I know that attendance was really 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 low in September, from what I've read from all over sources. I can't cite the source off the top of my head, but that's the general buzz, is that September park attendance across the board was very very low. And they are doing this and partially to see if they can sort of get some momentum going. We'll see what they're doing if they can't get that momentum going and they can't get attendance up by the holidays, because I think that will probably be a big problem if so. Not to be like a doomcaster, but I mean, that's the facts. If they can't get more people, the fact that it's the first week and I was able to get, like, the entire week was green of reservations available at the Magic Kingdom for this big celebration. I don't know, we'll see how it pays off and all their efforts pay off. So.
Well, while we're still talking about Magic Kingdom, let's talk about the new fireworks show, Disney Enchantment, that just opened at Magic Kingdom, that replaced Happily Ever After. My number one regret is that the last time I went to Disney World, it was getting kind of late. I was there with my mom. We'd been there all day, but there was like nobody in the Esplanade, they're in the front for Happily Ever After. And it looked like it was going to rain, but I think it was clearing up. And I really wish I had stayed for that show, because now I will never see it except on the internet. I so regret not staying. So I recommend if you see an empty area, like if you want to stay for fireworks, if you see a ride that only has a 10-minute wait, join that line, because who knows,
carpe diem, people.
Right? Yeah, the next time that's what I said. I said the next time I go to Disney World, I'm going to be able to see Happily Ever After. And then this happened. So
that's exactly what happened with Rise of the Resistance. So let us be your cautionary tales, y'all.
Yes.
If you see an opportunity to do something fun at Disney, take it, because you never know. I've heard very deeply mixed reviews about the new fireworks show. So I have a friend who actually saw it and who liked it. He said it was fun. It wasn't not only that he really liked it, he actually expected it to grow on him. It was something that was good for repeat viewings, that it had a lot going on, that it was something that, one thing that you can absolutely say is that it photographs beautifully. All of the nighttime spectacular things at all four parks celebrating the 50th anniversary, they're all intended for the gram, right? They're all intended to look beautiful on photos, and they absolutely do. I mean, the photo of the globe of Spaceship Earth with the
I really want to see that. I really want to see that in person. It looks so cool.
It's gorgeous, and they added the undercarriage colors to the monorail. So there's all these incredible shots of just people on their phones that are getting these beautiful pictures. So it's intended to look really good, and it does. I mean,
do you know if there's projection? I'm sure they're doing projections, but is it very just scene changes, or what have you heard from Enchantment? Are you going to watch it when you're there, or what do you think?
Okay. I am going to see it. I'm a person who, maybe this is an unpopular opinion, I do not have very strong feelings about fireworks shows. To me, they're all good. I mean, I'm very simple to please, the firework pretty, and that's as far as I get a lot of times, but I don't have these strong emotional attachments to them. I'm a person that's not really a purist per se. I'm not a person that change bad kind of person, which I get why people especially if you feel that the change is not, up to par with the previous happenings and offerings. But um, so I am going to see it. From what I understand, yes, they do have a lot of projections. They do rely on a lot of like current IPs, like
Mm,
Moana. Moana gets pushed really hard because, of course, it's hugely popular with little kids.
mhm.
They're pushing Ratatouille now and Remy, and so it's kind of,
Yes, no more Rummy erasure. I am
yes.
all for this life. I'm so
It
excited.
is it is very IP centric, and so that has been, I think, a point of debate and maybe a point of division among the people who liked it. So I've heard some people absolutely loathed it. Some people didn't like it at first, but then saw it like a couple more times and were like, "This has
Mm,
actually got a lot going to appreciate it." I think it's just one of those things that you have to go see for yourself and see how it goes along with your tastes. But I'm just not a person who gets emotionally invested in those fireworks show. It's pretty, as long as, for me, as long as it's a pretty send off and I can leave the park having that sense that I've had an eventful day, like cohesively eventful day, like
yeah.
it's something that that's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to end your note on a beautiful and, very spectacular kind of note, so that you go home feeling, the serotonin
Yeah.
that you get from having been at Disney World all day. Honestly, that's all I'm looking for from a fireworks show. So if it gets that far, but I mean, like I said, it's been very divisive from what I
Yeah,
understand.
I think it's a lot of that. I think just people generally, especially Disney fans, they as if I'm not part of that pack, but we seem to hate change generally. Anytime something changes at Disneyland, I'm along the same lines of I don't mind change at Disneyland. I don't mind if something evolves into something else,
Or gets
is
updated, right?
yeah, or it gets updated like a Splash Mountain turning it. That's fine. Like I'm perfectly fine with that. I think people are resistant to change, but in another 5 years when we still have this show around and people are exhausted and they want something special at the end of the night, they're gonna end up loving that last fireworks show. Like you said, it's the thing that caps off your evening. You have pretty projections and fireworks are nice. I do understand what they mean though. If there were some, I feel like there were some complaints that this is the 50th anniversary of these parks being open and maybe they didn't do enough of like Walt and Mickey, or didn't do enough to honor Walt and his last vision, because for Disneyland and our 50th anniversary, we had the most bomb fireworks show. I have to say, like, it was so in celebration of the entire park, which is something that I've never seen it like that before, in which they put the ride introductions over the projections of the rides themselves and the fireworks. We had a parade called Parade of Dreams, which the beginning intro was Walt saying welcome, his welcome intro to Disneyland. And that made people cry like every single time. So I think that that's what people were looking forward to, more of a tie of like, these are the last part of the parks that like Walt Disney was involved in creating. Maybe they should do something special for their 50th anniversary the way. I'm just saying we had a lovely 50th
No, for
anniversary of
sure.
Disneyland. So I
No,
understand
I've
some
seen.
complaints, but
I do too. I do too. I mean, one of the things that I thought was really interesting, they had that
mm,
ABC special about the 50th anniversary, and they showed a lot of like backstage stuff from the Disney World property. They showed, for example, that on the property it still exists, the little plane that Walt
mm,
would use to survey the area in
right.
here in Central Florida. It's still there. It's
Yeah.
literally still on Disney property right now, and they haven't. It's just sitting there. Like they didn't bring it out for any reason. They haven't. They could have been, that could have been an easy win to show the plane that
Like a
Disney,
plane
well,
projecting over the castle. Like
or,
this is what
or
something.
the plane itself is very small. They could have put it somewhere. They could
Yeah.
have like dragged it out and just slapped a coat of paint on it and said, "This is the," like that would have been really cool for people. But I really do agree with the people who are saying that the 50th anniversary is not so much pointed to nostalgia. It is really pointed to where the parks are now, and for the fact that this is an institution in a lot of people's lives. The only nostalgia that I've really seen them bank on is, there's been a lot of stories about today I read a story, a lovely story about a woman who had visited the opening day 50 years ago with her son. Her son was like a toddler at the time, who visited the first day that it was open, Disney World. And she was there for the 50th anniversary for October 1st. So she was there on the first day and on the 50th day with her son. So I
Yeah.
thought that was really nice. And then, they had a couple of other stories. Like they gathered all the cast members. I think there's something like 26 cast members that were working October 1st in 1971 and are still working for Disney parks today. So there's still like over 24 employees, cast members that are still working for the parks. And so they're doing stuff like that. But again, it's not necessarily looking behind us and looking more toward like the future and what we have to look forward to, and how this is sort of this enduring presence and this enduring concept. I don't feel like they're really banking on the nostalgia so much with the 50th anniversary stuff, which, for better or for worse, I'm a person who enjoys those kinds of looks back and those retrospectives. So I totally am with you in that I can understand people's critique of it, but I do get what they're trying to do with it.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say, and if you liked it, and if it's the good cap on your day, if
Yes,
if you think those fireworks fulfill that requirement. I guess we'll see.
yeah.
But also Epcot debuted their new show also on October 1st, Harmonious. That is something that has have you been hearing mixed things about that? I haven't really heard that much about it, good or bad, either way.
No, I have heard that it looks beautiful. I've heard more good things. That's from my end, from what I've been able to see. It's been less divisive than Enchantment. So from what I've heard, good things. I've again, those colors are really beautiful with a lot of the details that they did put on with the monorail and the different what they guess they spruced up Spaceship Earth, and now it has a bunch of different colors on it. I've heard it just looks spectacular. I've seen the photos of it and it's gorgeous. So I can't wait to see that in person, because Spaceship Earth is my favorite ride at Epcot. So I'm very happy to.
Like,
I know.
Here it is.
Yes, that's you. There you have it. That's exactly it. And I've that's the first ride I'm going to go to when I go back to Epcot is Spaceship Earth, because I, miss the cavemen and the Renaissance paintings and the animatronics inside, and the little cheesy update that they did at the end, where they record you and you get to pick what you'd like to live in the future. Because I used to have,
my God, my favorite thing is that.
I do. I think it's definitely an upgrade, because they used to, way back in the day, they had an animatronic vision of what the future would look like, but of course that got so dated so fast, because technology is changing so quickly. They just could never keep that up. And animatronic, so I don't know if a lot of people know this, Orlando is the number one industry city for animatronics engineering. So like in the world, like that's actually a thing. Like the most amount of, this is like the biggest industry of animatronics exists here in Orlando, but it is a enormously expensive undertaking just to change one animatronic robot. So can you imagine changing a whole scene? It is just a massively expensive, labor intensive undertaking. So they can't change it every year to update it, so I get it. That's why they changed it to the screen thing.
That's fair. The biggest complaint that I've always heard about the projection, the new projections that are happening with their show is the kind of like obtrusive giant platforms in the water, the black platforms that are kind of now like obstructing the view over the lake of Spaceship Earth. From, if you're like on Italy on the other side, then if you're trying to shoot across, then you see the big platforms. That's been the number one complaint. So it's been less about show and more about aesthetic, I guess.
Again, they emphasize IPs. They emphasize their Disney, their current properties. So it's just the focus of the company right now, and they're trying out new things. So yes, I did hear that the screens are really kind of not the best because of that, because they block out a lot of the view, and it's not like before where you could more illuminations. That was the previous one. You could see the entire lagoon, and you could see all the countries lighting up and all this other stuff. So I'll have to see that too. So I'll have to go be snooping over there and being nosy and seeing what it's all about soon too.
I love Illuminations. That was a great show. I went with my mom to go see that one. When I was a kid, there was a really good show. I can't tell you if it was the same one. This was like 1992, but she lost her earring on the ground, I remember, and we all stayed to look for it, like the whole crowd. The
Oh
whole
my God.
crowd that was around us were like, we lost an earring. Everybody was so nice. So when we tried to go look for it. That is my Epcot fireworks story. Let's see what else. There's so many things that happened this week. They debuted I don't know if you saw it, the actual ride vehicle for Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind
No,
at
I
Epcot.
didn't see that one. No, I haven't seen
Okay.
it. I haven't been keeping up with the Guardians of the Galaxy ride, just because here's the thing about the developments of the new rides at Epcot and in Central Florida, and I don't know if this is the case for Disneyland, and it's certainly by no stretch of the imagination the case for any Universal Studios park anywhere in the world.
Right.
Central Florida, you have to understand, Tron has been being built for like 4 years now. Like the entirety of Super Nintendo Land was built and they still haven't finished Tron in the same time period. So we don't really put too much stock on like ETAs when it comes to rides. So if, like for me, I'm just not even going to worry too much about how, like, if they developed, you know, a new anything about that ride until it's ready for me to like sit my butt down into and ride it, because that could be next week and that could be in 2028 for all we know. Because now I did actually get to sit in the prototype for it in 2019 when they were doing like things to look forward to. They had in the middle of Epcot, they had a big building, like the building where they put like art festivals and things like that. They had like little displays about what you have to look forward to in Epcot, and they had an opportunity to sit in one of the carriages, I guess, or one of the little ride vehicles for Guardians of the Galaxy. So that was that. But no, I didn't look. If you want to like tell us about it, because
I just sent it over to you via our chat if you would like to look at it.
Okay, that's cool. No, I mean, you know, and me not being like a huge, you know, Guardians of the Galaxy fan, I'm sorry if you like. I do like Rocket Raccoon. He's one of my favorite characters, but otherwise, you know, I'm just not too psyched about it.
I am bringing it up, also in part because of our possible future disabilities accessibility chat.
Yes.
As far as like looking at the ride vehicle, which is something that Disney does really well, is trying to accommodate everybody. So like Universal is always panned as one of those places that aren't really size friendly and maybe not. And then I know we've said at some point that it's not disability friendly either. So I think Disney really makes an effort to try to like make it accessible for everybody. So what I see from this ride vehicle in particular, it looks gigantic. So like it looks really big. It looks like it can fit just about. They have 2 seats in the back, 2 seats at the front, and I think what do you call it? Lap bars that pull down, as opposed to like the hardest ones to like put over your body are the ones that are like shoulder harnesses. So I think having a lap bar is great, because that means that a lot of people would be able to ride in these ride vehicles. So I will say that for Guardians, that it looks pretty accessible, and that they said, I was reading something and they said it was more of a ride that was comparable to a Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs mine train, as opposed to like, obviously it doesn't look like a Tron, but you're not riding on a bike or anything. But they said it would be comparable to like Snow White. So take that as you will.
The facade of this looks a lot like the prototype that I sat on. The prototype I sat on only had 2 seats, but
okay.
Just the facade of it, but it looks very similar to that, and it looks great. So we'll have to post this in like our notes and on the
so we can show it off and see what it looks like. See what it looks like. That's my thing about also kind of visiting the parks, is like you said, like there's nothing necessarily that's happening or like brand new on day one, I guess, except for the shows that we were talking about.
So I will be there with bells on. I will be there geeking out and waving things around, that, you know, because it's for children, and for giant children like myself. So I will.
And me. And I guess
Yes.
I'll have to go book another Southwest flight to go to Florida because as far as I know we're doing something comparable in Hollywood, but
Right.
much like most things in Los Angeles, there is like zero room for brand new building. And there's not that much room to
Right. You
expand in
can't
our back
build.
lot.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't build so
Unless
much in there, right?
yeah, there's like a golf course somewhere back there. Pretty sure they won't let them trespass on that land for the most part. And our studio is a working studio. So I think it would be difficult for them to do any kind of expansion that won't interrupt actual like movie making processes. So I don't think our land will look nearly as cool as yours. I mean, even for our Harry Potter area, they had to knock down my favorite venue in Los Angeles, Gibson Amphitheater, and they just expanded and took that part and then just made like a tiny little piece. It's not as expansive as your guys' area, but I mean, I'll go see it anyway. Like eventually I will go see it.
Of
See what it
course.
looks like. I hope it looks as cool as Japan and Florida. I don't know. Anything, I will take anything at this point, as long as it's Super Mario related. Like even the merch, like I want all that merch.
We'll have to compare notes. We'll have to, and then obviously fly to Japan and then compare that one too. So I think
Obviously fly to Japan, knock out all of those parks, come back and make that comparison.
absolutely. Speaking of overseas,
I was
I
like,
did want to
speaking of
mention,
overseas and other
yes.
parks, yes, would you like to talk about
Yeah,
that
so
new ride?
we are primarily, focused on, because we are West Coast, East Coast Disney fanatics, and we do like the theme parks in LA and in Orlando. We do primarily focus on that, but we do have interest in other parts of the world and other parks as well. And one thing I did want to talk about, because I actually happen to be a huge fan of the franchise, is that the world's very first Jumanji ride is opening in Gardaland in Italy. It's
So
opening,
cool.
yes, it's opening in 2023. I think they just started. So Gardaland is like it's a very large, I think it's one of the largest theme parks in Europe.
Hmm.
And it's affiliated with Legoland here in Orlando. They have a part of their land, one of their lands is Legoland. So they have a Legoland within Gardaland. And so I'm so psyched to see. They haven't announced anything about it other than the fact that it's happening.
Yeah.
They just, I mean, you can kind of intuit what it will look like given what Jumanji, the movies look like, where they're going through a video game and they have to get out the other end and beat all these wild scenarios like rhinos and, exploding cakes and things like that. So I'm assuming it's going to be kind of following that type of narrative that, maybe the theme of the ride will be that you're in Jumanji and you have to beat all these things and come out the other side. But I'm super excited that it's happening at all, because the sequels, the two sequels that came out recently, were hugely popular, and I'm definitely crediting the popularity of those to this getting greenlit. But I don't know. We'll see if it kind of catches on and just what it looks like.
Yeah, it seems like one of those movies that's absolutely you could picture it as a ride, because there is so much that happens even just in the first incarnation of Jumanji. I mean, when I saw it in movie theaters when it first came out, and I feel like it was in my wheelhouse and my demographic. It was 1995. I was 10 years old, and so everybody my age was obsessed with Jumanji. I bought the crappy game that's not really like anything like it looks like in the movie, but you pretend that it is because you're 10, so you're going to pretend that you're going to get sucked into the board or whatever. But there were so many, like, just riding on the house like fills with water, and can you imagine just like the ride vehicle for like what that could look like? And I also hope that it's not projections, or it's not, I don't know, it didn't say anything
They're
about
saying
that.
no, they did. They said it was interactive. They said
Okay.
so I'm hoping the same as you, that it's not just you sit there and you project. It's not like another Star Tours, which I love Star Tours,
Yeah.
but I don't I would expect a little more. And this is a theme park that is rife with roller coasters, like real ones. They do have, real rides, and they have space. They do have the space to build something interesting. So that would be great if it was a Jumanji roller coaster. That would be totally on brand, So something like that. But they haven't really released too many details about it. But Gardaland in Italy. I have a lot of family in Europe. In Spain specifically, they like to
Mhm.
go to Portaventura, which is a theme park that is. I'm assuming that Portaventura is associated with Warner Brothers because they have a
Mm.
lot of the same, or Universal Studios, or maybe there's some kind of, at least their IPs, because like they in Universal Studios here they have like Scooby Doo and Woody Woodpecker and
Right.
Madagascar, and they have those characters there in Portaventura. So I'm assuming
Oh,
there's
they do?
a link.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting.
they have character actors dressed up as Woody Woodpecker and things like that. So I mean, there must be
Oh,
some
okay.
link.
Yeah.
There must be some link between them, but I'm not entirely sure. I just know that I think the same development company that does Legoland is at least partly behind Gardaland's Legoland, and what have you. So I have high hopes, hopefully, that
I have
Jumanji
high
ride.
hopes too. Yeah, what do you prefer as far as like ride vehicles? I was gonna, I'm jumping in to compare it to like Rise, but since you haven't been on Rise yet for the reasons that we mentioned, like what is your preferred method, not method, preferred ride vehicles, I will say.
No, I like the ones where you move through and there's like some. I like the narrative aspect of it. I don't
Mhm.
like the ones that I like the ones like Pirates of the Caribbean, where
Yeah.
there's a story and you feel like you're part of the story. If they did something like that, something along those lines, where you felt where the story was that you're in Jumanji, and there's like all those, like on the old Indiana Jones ride too, where like not the Indiana Jones, the Great Movie ride, where you were part of the
Mhm.
Indiana Jones narrative and you had to evade the rock and
Right.
the big giant rolling boulder. Like that stuff is just for the fans of the movie, which as I said, that the new sequels are hugely popular. So if they capitalize on that, I think it'll be a really good time.
I don't know why it surprised me that the sequels were as good as they were. I think just because I'm hesitant on sequel. I guess I mean they didn't call it a sequel though. They called it kind of like a new story to come out of the Jumanji verse or whatever
Oh
they.
no, they are direct sequels. They are direct
Is
sequels.
that
They
what they're
are
calling
if
it? Yeah.
Well, so yeah, this is one of my little pet subjects is Jumanji, whether it's a sequel. The thing is that um, Jumanji, the original, has some characters that I don't want to spoil if anybody's seen it. They do show up in the second one. And at that point, you see that there is a thread between the first and the third, and they are directly in the same universe. However, the events of the second, the newer one, basically the first one with Dwayne Johnson, changed the course of time. So it's sort of like this weird AU time travel
Mm,
kind of story. So there's like a whole
yeah.
myth verse here. I don't think the rides will get that deep, but
Yeah.
I don't think they'll like go into. But they are sequels. They are direct sequels. A lot of people don't know that because they don't mention until the very end of the second. They don't mention that it does take place in the same universe with the same characters being affected.
That is
So I
true.
know that they were working on a fourth one, like the next one. But of course, that was supposed to start in 2020 and it didn't happen, and now everybody's busy, like everybody who's involved with it is busy, all the actors are
That's
busy.
true.
So it will happen eventually because it left it on a little like narrative cliffhanger, that
Right.
second one. So we'll see what they do, but it is all one big happy universe, shared universe. So
That's true. Well, that's just a ride that we're just gonna obviously have to go check out for ourselves and
absolutely.
fly all the way
And
to
our
Italy to go see.
absolutely.
Yes. So
Okay,
looking
we'll
forward to
swing
that.
by after Japan, after we'll just
We'll
kind of swing
just
on by,
swing by after we go to
as
Japan
you do.
because they're
As
like
we all have
so
done.
so close to each other, so close. Those are all the topics that we have for this week. I did want to make a couple of corrections to my first, as I was corrected. The title of Disneyland's Christmas event is called Merriest Nights. I kept calling it Merry Nights, but it's Merriest Nights. And also the park passes, the top tier Disneyland pass is 20% off merchandise and 15% off food. So thank you for correcting me on that last one, a brand new listener. But I just wanted to put those in there to make sure I don't flub for the next time. But yeah, I think that we're just about finished for this week.
All right. Well, if you've made it this far, thank you for joining us for this episode of the Theme Park Real Talk podcast.
We hope you've had fun. And since the plan right now is to make this a weekly thing, we do hope you come back.
You can find us on the web at themeparkrealtalk.com and on SoundCloud at username themeparkrealtalk, where you can like and subscribe for future episodes.
That's all for tonight.
See you real soon.
Bye.